Hi everyone, my name is Jyoti and I have close to 10 years of experience in software testing. Today, whatever I'm going to share with respect to things tester must know on cloud, this I've gained by being part of organizations which were either on cloud when I was there or they were migrating to cloud. So there could be more than 9 things, but these are the ones which I have learned and I felt they are important for other people to know. So I'll just start sharing my screen. So we are talking about new normal. So I would like to ask, are you guys able to see my screen and hear me fine?
Yes, it's absolutely fine. We are able to see it and also hear you.
Okay, guys. Yeah. So let's start with 9 things tester must know on cloud. So this is the agenda for today. First and foremost, we should know what is cloud and why companies are moving towards cloud, why we are migrating towards cloud. And then we'll talk about the mindset. Since it's our new normal, so there has to be change in the mindset shift, right? So we'll talk about what are those things which one should keep in mind while testing an application which are in cloud or when we are planning to move to the cloud. Then once we have got the right mindset, we know the pros and cons of moving to the cloud. We'll go about migrating our application to cloud and see what are the things you can keep in mind, what are the test strategies you need to have around testing the migration. And then we'll talk about security and performance testing. So just because you're moving to cloud, you are giving your infrastructure to a cloud provider. That doesn't mean that your job for security and performance testing ends there. So they're in fact moving to the cloud involves new security concerns. So, as a tester, you should be aware of those concerns. And then we'll talk about disaster recovery. So, problems are inevitable. There could be a disaster situation, could be a natural or man-made. So you should know, like once you are there on the cloud, how can you ensure business continuity? And then I'll talk about monitoring, which is a key aspect. Okay. Earlier, when we were monitoring application which are on premises, there were different set of tools. Now you should go ahead and make yourself aware about the tools which these provider provides. Okay, and then uh, communication. So as you know, for a tester, communication and coordination is one of the important skills, and on cloud it is again the most, because now you're not going to talk to people who are co-located. You'll be talking to third party people. You'll be talking to cloud providers. Okay, so you should know how you can do effective communication. And finally, what all test cases you can include while testing an application which are hosted on cloud. Okay, so let's understand why companies are moving towards cloud. So we with cloud we get functionality like scalability, right? So now you no longer have to think about the construction if you plan to expand your business. Okay, you don't have to think about the infrastructure maintenance. You are giving it to a cloud provider, right? Then you have got a pay as you go model. So you pay for the services you use, right? And then scalability, as I told you, scalability is one thing. Then there is reduction in cost as well. Like you don't have to think about, oh, I have a room wherein I have kept my servers. I have to ensure that the environment is cool. I have some infra IT guy who would be taking care of the system. Okay, so all these are taken away. It is being given to cloud providers. They'll take care of all the infrastructure problems and concerns for you. Okay, and now as a company, as an organization, your whole focus would be how to provide better services to your client. Okay, so that's the reason for people moving towards cloud or digital transformation. Okay, but you should know some, as a tester, you should know some key things about the cloud. For example, if I talk about AWS, because that's a cloud provider which I know about. So the basic things which AWS talks about is, okay, we have so many regions, you have availability zone, and we always hear people saying that you should always select a region which is very closest to your customer. Okay, this sounds good. Yeah, if our region is your data center, which is we call it as a cloud. So if a region is closer to a customer, then that means there would be low latency. You'll be able to serve customers' requests quickly. But you should also know that not all services would be available in the region, okay, which you have selected. So you have to be very cautious while selecting a region. There could be some, say, compliance and governance issue. You have GDPR, maybe that as per GDPR, you cannot store the data of a client at some other location other than Europe. Okay, so you should know about all these things while moving to cloud. Yeah. Now let's see what are the mind shift you need to do as a tester. Okay. So as you know, cloud is kind of multi-tenancy, which is like you are a tenant. So there would be a single machine, physical machine, and it could be a possibility that there are multiple application, multiple enterprise which are using same physical machine. Okay, but to you it is a virtual environment. Now as a tester, yes, functionality testing is important, which has been important in earlier days as well, where our job was to understand the requirement, write the test cases, execute them. But since we have multi-tenancy with the cloud providers, so you have to start focusing on data integrity, security, in fact, code quality. So you have to ensure that the somehow your application is not being accessed by some other application. Okay, so hence one shift which you need to do is start thinking in terms of data integrity, security. Okay, second, tool set. Okay, so are the older tool sets which we know. Okay, so which is, for example, okay, I know Selenium, I know Rest Assured, but just knowing Selenium, Rest Assured won't help for testing applications which are on cloud. Okay, so you should know some other tool set as well. For example, you should know, okay, what exactly YAML is. Okay, because what, how Python works. Yeah, how scripts are written in Python. Okay. For example, AWS has one service which is cloud formation. So it's kind of a, of your architecture you have a template. Okay, so using that template you can create a new environment in, say, less than just 10 minutes. So if as a tester you know, okay, how cloud formation templates are written, okay, how you can leverage that to create an environment. Okay, maybe there is some issue. Okay, you need to test it in a new environment, because in existing environment you're not able to replicate that issue, and you're seeing, oh, this issue is happening just for a new user, and you want to set up a similar environment wherein there's no data and first time user is logging. So you can leverage those template and create an environment, do your testing, and then destroy the environment. Okay, next day again you can come and you can create a new environment. So yes, you should know new tool sets. You need to upgrade your skills. Okay, you have to start thinking in terms of architecture. Okay, that's why you see nowadays roles like test architect. Okay, so if a test architect understands the architecture of the system which is being hosted on the cloud, he or she may be able to come up with those corner cases, with those security concerns. And latency, again, you are using regions or data center which are spread across continent, right? So you'll see there would be a latency, okay, while accessing certain part of your application. Now as a tester you should raise bug for these scenarios and talk to your POs, talk to your system architecture to understand, like, okay, when I was running here, you can leverage your automation script. Okay, so you must have run your automation script on premises. Okay, and you know, oh, I if I run 2000 scripts, it takes 30 minutes. But now when we have migrated to a cloud, running same scripts, it is taking more time. Okay, so is it normal? Is it something we should take care of? Okay. So if you'll have these kind of a mindset, you'll be able to come up with good scenarios. Okay, and finally, remote testing. You should get used to this new normal of remote testing, because cloud is here to stay, and now you have to upgrade your skills as well. Yeah. So we've understood what is cloud, why people are moving towards cloud. We've developed the right mindset. We are open to learn new tools, technologies. We are open to understand the system architecture. And now we decided to migrate to the cloud. Okay. So as a tester, what all you can do. Okay, so be part of those meeting wherein the discussion is going on about, okay, what we are going to migrate, what is the first thing we are going to migrate, so that you know, okay, when things are migrated, you ensure that yes, your application is production ready. Okay, you also think about failover testing, right? Okay, if something goes wrong, okay, how would you ensure that, oh, you can direct your traffic to the on premises? Okay, so you have to think about failover testing. And you should know that if somebody is planning that, okay, we are today we are on premises and tomorrow we'll go to cloud and everything would work fine, and we will not face any issue. That's wrong, because first time, maybe on first day you might not see any glitches, but eventually you would come up with these scenarios, okay, with the issues. So you should always close out in phases. Okay, maybe you have got 10 customer, few redirected to the cloud, to few redirect them to on premises. Okay, and also just make a checklist. Okay, since we are maintaining two versions, there's something on premises, there's something on the cloud. So when you are going towards deploying your code or application, you should take care of these aspects as well. Okay. Yeah. So I've heard many times people saying, "Oh, we are moving to a cloud, and now we don't have to think about security. Now AWS would, or any cloud provider, they'll take care of the security of our application." But that's not the true. True. That's not true case. And hence AWS, they came up with AWS shared responsibility model diagram, which says that as AWS, as cloud provider, our responsibility is of security of the cloud. Okay, so which means that we'll take care of patching of host hardware or operating system or databases. Okay, but where security in the cloud is concerned, that's the customer responsibility. Okay, so if I talk about security in the cloud, right, why it's important. Okay, so when we had a in-house system, therein, as a tester, I just had to I was in a closed environment. I just had to focus on the functionality, and if I faced any issue accessing a system, be it hardware or a software, I used to reach out to the IT guy, right? And they used to take care of the firewalls and all those things. But now, as now you should know how all these things are being done in the cloud. Okay, what do we mean by virtual private cloud? What do we mean by subnet? What do we mean by availability zone? So, and how we are ensuring security of our application. So are we using right encryption? Because your data is going to be at rest, okay, at times, and there would be times your data would be moving, and your data would be moving across continents, across regions. So have you placed required encryption? Are we focusing on right security? So as a customer, you need to take care of this. Okay. Yeah. This I learned by being part of an organization which was into fintech. So till that time, I used to think that, yeah, with cloud we are able to scale, and if we see there is a lot of traffic coming, we'll be able to have multiple instances, and it would be able to serve our request. But there I got to know that with AWS or any cloud provider, you are just scaling your resources. Okay, these providers are helping you scale the resources. That doesn't mean that by scaling the resources, your application would be able to handle that much of a load, or it would be stable, and it would take care of for the incoming request. For example, see, in this diagram, I have created a multiple instance of EC2. Okay, which was done through elastic load balancing. But all these are going to access data from this MySQL DB. So you have a single instance of MySQL DB, and you have created multiple instance of EC2 instances. Okay, so for now, just understand, you're going to get a lot of requests from EC2 on the DB. So see, with this structure, what do you see? There are three servers accessing database. Okay, so maybe your system might choke. Maybe your DB is not able to take care of these much of load. Okay, so moving to cloud, yes, cloud is infinite. With cloud, you can scale at any length, but you have to think about your application. Is application able to handle that much of a load? There could be a scenario, maybe the API has a rate limit, it can access only 100 requests. Okay, so what if there are 1,000 requests which are coming on your application? You have created so many instances, they are going to take that request, but your services, they won't respond. You'll start getting a rate limitation. Okay, and whenever we used to have this big billion day sale, okay, so we used to do a dedicated 1 or 2 weeks of performance testing. Okay, because we know that there are so many parties involved. We have our application, we have got Flipkart, then you have got some banks. Okay, so yes, we have moved to the cloud, we are able to scale, but we have to ensure that our application has been created in a manner that it can take care of these capacity. So always plan for performance testing. So disaster recovery. Okay, so disaster are bound to happen. Okay, they would always happen, so you should know, by moving to cloud, how can you avoid these disaster situation. So you'll always have a disaster recovery plan, but just having those plans is not enough. Okay, you have to ensure that yes, you are testing your disaster recovery plan. You are talking to people about your test assumption, your test scope. You are talking to people who are doing the disaster recovery to understand which part would be impacted. Okay, and how we are going to come to the normal. Okay, how are we going to ensure that yes, our business continuity is maintained. Okay, so here, instead of a tool, I would like to say that even when moving to the cloud, processes also plays very important role. Okay, processes like, okay, you have a run book. Okay, in case of a disaster, you should, as a tester, you should know, oh, what are steps. Maybe you are involved at step 3, but you should know what is being performed at step 1, what is being performed at step 2. Okay, and ensure that yes, all the documents are up to date. Okay, and whenever there is any, and you are having a frequent run of these disaster recovery. Okay, I know you won't get disaster won't tell that I'm coming on so and so day. You have to be prepared. Okay, so how can you be prepared is to ensure that you are doing disaster recovery testing as well. Monitoring. So as I mentioned in my agenda, that yes, you should be aware of some of the monitoring tools which these cloud providers they provide. For example, AWS provides you with AWS CloudWatch and CloudTrail. So you should have some matrices which is able to understand, okay, how is my customer expectation going on, how is my system behaving, how is AWS behaving. In fact, you should understand, yes, you are going towards pay as you go model. Maybe you've taken a service which you are not using. Okay, so you have to ensure that you are going towards best cost optimized way. Okay, so yes, in fact, when I talk about disaster recovery scenario as well, you should ensure that yes, you have got correct logging, you have got correct alerts and alarms set up. Okay, so how can you do those, how can you set up alerts, how can you set up alarms using these monitoring tools. So we always want to be proactive. Okay, because nowadays on you have added pressure of being 24 cross 7 as a company, as a business. So you want to ensure that you don't there was this recent incident wherein Ola was coming up with their electric scooters. You all must have heard, right? And people were waiting for that day. And what happened? Their servers, they stopped responding. So if you go to Twitter, you will see people how they are commenting, right? So with social media, you are more exposed, right? So you have to ensure that yeah, system may fail. Okay, and we always say that testing is not exhaustive. You cannot do exhaustive testing, but you should be proactive, right? Okay, failure has happened, how can you ensure that your system is up in few seconds or in few minutes. So having these monitoring tools, having these matrices would help you in such scenarios. Communication, yes. So now you're not going to communicate just with people in your organization. You're going to communicate with people in the cloud provider team, right? So you should know, okay, you should be, first you should be able to understand, okay, issue which is being caused because of your application and issue which is being caused because of the cloud provider. So you should have a clear distinction. Okay, and then you should know about the SLA. So there are various support model in AWS. Some support model says that okay, you can, in case of issue, you can send out an email to us. We'll respond in so and so time. So maybe if you're not aware of those SLAs, you might be just pinging them again and again. So you should know about all these things, and you should know how to do effective communication You should know how you can get quick response. Okay, so whenever you're saying is sharing any issue, share these details. Okay, now you know about the monitoring tools, you know the log, you know everything, you've learned about stuff. Okay, how you know how cloud works, so you can pinpoint those problem areas, and then in just one email you'll be able to get your answer. But if you are not aware about the cloud, if you're not aware about their monitoring tools, okay, so that communication won't be effective, and you'll be doing to and fro, and with this to and fro, maybe you might get a hit on your business. Okay, now everything boils down to test cases, right? Okay, we know, yes, we have required skill. We are planning for performance testing. We are performing for security testing. Okay, we have created right matrices. Okay, we are monitoring. We have added alerts. Okay, now when it comes about functionality, okay, so what kind of test cases you have to start including? So first is, yes, now you have to execute your test cases often. Okay, because there would be times whenever your system would be running on very low configuration. Okay, there would be time where you're seeing high volume. Okay, of I'm sorry. So you're getting a lot of requests. Okay, you're getting a lot of transactions. Okay, now you want to see, oh, when there is high load, high volume of requests, how my application is behaving. So hence you have to execute tests often. You need to test early and test often. Okay, you can leverage your automated test cases. Okay, every time you cannot go ahead and do manual testing, right? So you should have high volume of automated test cases. And by high volume automated test cases, I don't mean that you go ahead and automate your P3 or P4 cases as well. Okay, so you have to focus on your those P0 cases or P1 cases. So you have to ensure that those are automated. In fact, if you have automated it, it would help you when you are migrating. Okay, or when you are, there are times when a company goes for multiple cloud providers, like we did go. So in a month we saw that there was our we were using AWS, and we saw that in the same month, that there was some issue in the Bangalore, and there was a cyclone which was coming in Mumbai. Okay, so with that, our organization decided that we cannot rely just on one cloud provider. We need to have another cloud provider. Okay, so if you have your automated test cases, you'll be able to test these things very quickly. Okay, so have a good automation pack. Okay, talk to different stakeholders to understand, okay, what area of the application is highly impacted, so that you have a good coverage on that area. Third is alert on failure. Yes, normally for every server you have a health check just to ensure, yes, servers are up and running. Okay, but you should also create some alert which is more than telling you that, okay, services are up. Okay, so I we recently faced a situation wherein at our end everything was working fine. Okay, so there was this client with whom we were integrated as an email bot. Okay, so with at our end everything was working fine. Okay, because we were trying to replicate same thing on our sandbox region, and we saw things are working fine. But on production, just for once or twice, we started getting error. Okay, so when we did debugging, we found out, okay, we were using Shopify's API, and that API stopped responding, and because of which we could not take care of the client's support ticket. Okay, so yes, you should have the alert on your system, plus you should have alert for the third party application. So as a tester, you would know about the different components of application more than anybody else. So you should tell people beforehand, be dev or solution architect, that you're looking for these kind of alerts. You want them to put checks on these things. Okay, fourth, I've talked all around my topic that yes, now you should get a for test architect role or a analyst role. Okay, this is, I see that's a upcoming role in testing. Okay, so you should know about your platform. Okay, then resource intensive. Yes, I did talk. Okay, what how your system behaves when your CPU utilization is say 70%. Okay, so you should have test cases around those areas. I'll give you an interesting example of same disaster recovery situation. So we decided, okay, we'll have AWS and Azure, and people started working on this plan. And when we went ahead, and so there are some key areas which you have to test. Okay, there could be 10 areas or 10 services which you're providing to your customer, but the customer uses these two, three features frequently. So one feature was invoice. It was related to invoice, and to store invoice we were using S3 service of AWS. Okay, so when we migrated to Azure, the invoice part was not working. Why? Because in AWS you have S3, but in Azure you have blob. Okay, so hence code changes were required. Yeah, so you have to pick those cases as well. Okay, which is covering different kind of scenarios. If I would have gone ahead and we would have picked just scenario related to invoice, because I know invoice is a very important feature, but you have to think, oh, okay, in this we are using S3. Okay, let's have a test case around S3. Oh, there is an application which is very UI dependent, which was our checkout page. Okay, so wherein we had some static content and some dynamic content. So we had created a checklist of such test cases which were impacting different parts of the application, and which had a good combination of, say, notification, queuing. So you should be ready with such checklist. Next is chaos engineering. Yes, it's another. It's a topic in itself, but in short, what chaos engineering says is create that failure condition and see how your providers is working. Okay, this was introduced by Netflix. You can read on the net. Okay, so the Ola example which I was giving you, maybe there would be a lot of reasons for services going down. Maybe they didn't think about the kind of traffic they would get, or maybe they knew that they are going to a lot of traffic and they had multiple availability zone. Okay, but there was some situation which they could not think of, right? So chaos engineering comes in picture in these scenario wherein you are purposely adding a failure condition. Maybe you know that your application requires 3 instances, and now what you do, you just take out one instance from ELB and see how your application is performing. Okay, and handle different configurations. So as I told you, have a test cases which is consisting of different kind of processes, like maybe something related to notification, something related to queuing. Okay, and you also know that at though with cloud provider you have a flexibility to have a production like environment, right? But still, and everything comes with a cost, so we tend to not have a configuration similar as a production. So you should always have test case handy. Okay, so what I call it as a build verification test and production verification test. So small test cases which quickly verifies your application. Okay, so when you have created a DVT or smoke test, make sure you have the flavors of different configuration. Okay, so that's it from my end. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jyoti Uday here. Fantastic insights. And I really like, we have a saying called 7 habits of highly effective people. So something like that you had your session, as well as 9 things that they tested us to look into. So here are some questions for you, Jyoti. So it was a little heavy on that. So question, is AWS providing any free trial to do R&D? So answer from you.
Yeah, yes, they have a free trial. So I was talking about backstage, Anil, that I take a session every Saturday on AWS. So all my sessions, they are practical session, and I do it on a free tier. But yes, there are certain services for which you'll be
Hmm.
charged, but those charges are very minimal. And there have been time wherein I have requested AWS to
Hmm.
uh,
So
yeah.
are you talking about that 750 person hours that they give? Is that the one that you're talking about, which I think any public person can actually make use of it? Is that the one that you talk?
Oh, sorry, can you come again? I haven't heard about
No, there
that.
is a, there is a
Sorry.
free there is a free tier already available in AWS,
Yeah,
which provides
yeah,
750
yeah.
hours.
Yes,
Okay, so
yes, yes, yes,
okay,
yes,
so
yes,
that's
yes.
the answer for your question, Venkata Yugandhar Gupta. Thank you.
Mhm.
So next question is, you also mentioned about one of the 9 things, disaster recovery. So how have you handled disaster recovery? any tools that you have used or you have a framework for this. So, which means this actually has two things. One, you will have to induce a disaster and then see whether the plan that you have in the behind the scene gets into the action. So, how have you done these two steps? Your side, please.
Okay, okay. So the induced part, yeah, I was not part of it, but as a tester, what we did, we leveraged our automation scripts which we had created. In second, as I told you, we were part. So see, disaster recovery is like you are creating a replica in layman language. Okay, you are there on say one region of AWS, maybe Mumbai. Now you plan to have a similar setup on Bangalore, right? So you just have to ensure that okay, when we go live with Bangalore, your application is behaving as it is expected to be, right? So you, as a tester, be ready with those test cases, which would ensure that yes, your key functionalities are working fine. Okay, and
No,
you
no, but
cannot be
I'm
innocent.
saying, how do you induce a disaster to see whether, because in the subsequent slides, I also had one word coming in here. So it's called chaos engineering. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
again a part of where you induce a chaos and see how the system behaves or responds to you. So do you have any understanding of it in terms of inducing and seeing how the system responds?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have. I
Okay,
haven't
okay.
done that. Yeah.
That was a good question, Harmony Prajapati. So it's a good point to be noted. And question from Nikita Soni. Can you give some example for a monitoring tool? I know you told CloudWatch, but other than that, is there any other tool that you would actually use? Nikita Soni,
Yeah.
question from.
Okay, so Nikita have used CloudWatch. I know about CloudTrail. So these are the two things I know. Okay, even CloudWatch, with CloudWatch you can have lots of dashboards. So some dashboards you will get prerequisite. Okay, so the moment you create an instance, you'll see a lot of dashboards. Okay, that AWS provide. And second is yes, you can use a combination. Okay, there are like okay, you have a Lambda services. Okay, maybe you can create own monitoring scenarios like monitoring alerts, alarms using these services of AWS. But if I talk about
So Jyoti,
some of
so this would be monitoring in terms of only the CPU memory kind of stuff, or does it actually also monitor the logs, or does it also monitor the IP addresses from where the call came from? So what exactly does it monitor? Do you want to tell that also because you know more about CloudWatch?
yeah. So if you want to go at the IP level, etc., for that you have a CloudTrail, okay, which would give you all those logs. Now, maybe from the log, not everybody can read the log and understand. Okay. Now, using the information from CloudTrail, you can create a dashboard using CloudWatch, or you can create your own services, which is picking data from the CloudTrail and giving you alert on certain situations. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, fine, good. Thank you very much for that. That question was again from Harmony Prajapati. Have you faced any issues which were due to AWS cloud? Can you give example of any real-time issue faced during the days when there's a heavy load on the application? So he is now, asking you about not the problem with your application as you develop, rather on the cloud infrastructure from AWS itself. If there is a problem due to heavy load, how does AWS management respond to you,
Okay.
Jyoti?
Uh, yeah, that's a really great question, Harmony. Unfortunately, I have not faced any situation wherein issue was with the cloud. Mainly, I've faced issue wherein maybe the way we are accessing our databases or the rate limit of our API, it is set to a particular limit, and now when we increase the load, now API is not able to handle that. So I faced these kind of a situation, but I haven't come across a situation where there was problem with the AWS until and unless there is some issue at their end. Maybe there was some cyclone which was coming, or maybe there was some fire issue. So I've seen these kind of issue, okay, but not anything technical. I haven't faced this
Okay,
issue
thank
from a
you.
cloud provider.
Thanks, Jyoti. I think your session is so interesting that questions are pouring still. So, the question from Lata Srinivasaya. Can you suggest any open source cloud database for testing? Question is a bit tricky. Can you suggest open source cloud database for testing? Is there any? Answer from you.
Open source. I know about the database services, but everything is charged. Like you know, so
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about, we have about 750 hours. Okay, and all the services in free trial, yes, until 750 hours we are good. But any extra
Okay.
service you are using, you'll be charged. So there are no SQL databases like you have DynamoDB, you have RDS, you have Aurora, but they are not open source. You'll be charged for it.
Okay. Okay. No, if you charge also, it's fine. But open source, no, it is a code, right? Which Amazon, if I ask, they won't give you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And thanks for that again, Jyoti. Again, question from Harmony Prajapati. Which platform you provide the session on? That question is probably related to the admin.
AWS.
Yeah, yeah.
AWS. Okay.
Okay, very nice. And again from Nikita Soni. Chaos engineering is similar to negative testing? That's a question.
Yeah, again, that's a good question. Okay, you guys are putting me in spot to think. You can say negative testing, but when you talk about negative testing, you're talking about your application. Okay, but when we are talking about chaos engineering, we are focusing on the whatever cloud is giving us. Okay, maybe scalability, agility. So if you do something with the cloud, maybe there were three instances which your application required, and you went ahead and removed one instance, and then you want to see how your application is behaving. So no, they are not same. I would say you are doing negative testing, but that of a infrastructure, not the
Correct. Very good.
application.
Right, right. So typically in the global world, negative testing means enter the amount using alphabets and see whether it is coming. So that's application level negative testing. But like you said, at infrastructure level, create some negativeness probably by creating some chaos inside the system. Good. Thanks for that. And the next is Yugandhar Gupta Nalam, Venkata Yugandhar. Any open source automation tools available for cloud application testing? So I think you can use any automation tool, right? So if the application is hosted on the cloud, do you have any specific tools that you wanted to tell?
I have used the basic tools like Selenium, Rest
Hmm.
Assured, and all because consider that there is something which is invisible, right? Earlier,
Hmm.
also, when your system was on premises, you had same sort of test cases which you had to run. Now, when it's on cloud, but yes, one thing which you need to keep in mind is maybe some tools which you are using for your on premises, maybe they are license based, right? So when you go to
Yeah.
cloud, maybe you might face that kind of issue wherein maybe that tool is not supporting AWS. Maybe there was limited charge. For example, Red API and all, they come with licenses. So that time,
Right.
maybe Red API might not get supported on AWS. But other than that, any other tool I am not aware of.
Okay, thank you for that. Probably the last question. How to test the microservices mesh? What are the test strategies you have adopted, if so, for testing the microservices hosted on the cloud? Question from
So
Ashwini Lalit. Yeah.
yeah, Ashwini. So before moving to a cloud, right? Your first prerequisite is this only, that you want to go ahead away from monolithic to a microservice architecture, right? Okay, you want to divide your application into small modules, right? So that everything works independently. So when it comes about testing, first you should test the module individually, and then you should think about integration testing and then system integration testing, because now it's your microservice, how two microservices are talking to each other, and how these microservices are combining with your cloud platform. Okay, so these are the things you need to test while having a microservice architecture.
That's good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Jyoti. So I think whole lot of questions. I believe
Yeah.
many are writing still some more questions. Thank you, audience. You had been a vibrant audience, even 6:30 in the evening. So Jyoti should be somewhere around in the lobby. So you can still have question and talking to her. So that was a nice interactive session, Jyoti. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Vidhi,
Thank
over to you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you, Uday.